Hey guys, it's Jake at Canadian Cutting Edge. We've got a Ganzo today that I thought I might never ever make a video of. And that's because I bought this thing almost 2 years ago. And it didn't take very long and it was out of stock. And I haven't noticed it come back into stock. And now suddenly today when I was checking, it's in stock again. So I might as well review it. I like to review knives that you guys, the viewers, can actually go out and get. I much prefer doing it that way, not just because I get a little bit of a commission if you use my links, but of course that's a factor. I need money to keep the channel running. And if you buy this knife, I get what, 15, 20 cents or whatever. And that's a good thing. And that helps me out. But mainly I want you to see a knife. And if you like it, you can actually go get it. And that's what you can do now with this knife. This is the G716, so it's early in the G700 series. I don't think it's going to get transferred up to the F series. I just don't think it's sold all that well, and I don't know why, because it's actually a very good knife. There's a couple things that might turn some people off, such as how grippy this texture is, and it is super grippy. It is so aggressive that I think some people don't like it. But there's a really easy solution to that. It's called sandpaper. You just rub it on here a little bit, depending on what grit you have. And you can make the handle, more comfortable, less grippy if you want to. Or if you want it super grippy like this, then this knife, even if your hands are totally wet with slimy stuff, you're still going to get a really good grip on it. And that's one of the biggest pluses on here. Another plus is you got a classic drop point saber grind blade that is easy to hold, comfortable, and easy to use. So added little bonus of a tungsten tipped glass breaker, and you've got a knife that is worth considering. So I encourage you to stick around for the full review coming at you right now. So what we're looking at is a knife that's got this thumb disc right here, and you've got some knurling on the side. So it's totally ambidextrous, flips open quite well, and that's with white nylon washers in here. Both sides have white nylon washers, and because there's no skeletonizing on this thing or anything, I'm not going to take it apart and show you the insides. I think practically that's sort of just a waste of time on this knife. Because there's nothing to see in there. You've all seen white washers before, not nylon washers. And if you haven't seen how the action works on a axis lock before, the way it works in very brief is this post right here pulls back, and that frees the blade to move any way it wants to. And then there's these springs that pull the post forward so that when it's closed, the post goes over the tang of the blade, and now it's locked in the open position. And when it's closed, the springs push forward, and that makes the detent. That makes the blade want to stay closed. And so it's got a good detent pulling the knife closed from those springs. So you can see the action. You can see that moving. And good lock, really solid lock. I've done loads of spine whack tests on this lock, and it is solid. Ganzo's done a really good job of it. And this knife is done very well. If you can see that dark area there, that's a little over 3.5 millimeters wide. That's how far the axis lock is going over the tang of the blade, making it a really solid engagement, and it just works very, very well. So we've got this really fine bead blast finish on the blade. Bit of a swedge here. Drop point almost looks a bit like a spear point, but the belly's more rounded here and more gradual here. I've sharpened this knife a couple times myself, and so, I'm not really going to do a factory edge cut test because I can't. Nice high saber grind. It cuts quite well. This thumb disc, very often thumb discs are a problem because when you're slicing through stuff, it's going to catch right on the edge of that, and you can't slice through it. But this thumb disc is far enough back that it's not really a problem. You can slice through stuff, except for right at the very, very end here, then that might catch, but not an issue at all, really. And you could always take that thumb disc off and just open the knife like this and close it like that. I know I don't have the camera far enough away to do that, but this kind of lock makes it really easy and convenient to open the knife in a number of different ways without having to engage the thumb disc. Now, the thumb disc is really good when you're using it for doing some more hard work, because you put it in your hand like this and you put your thumb over that disc, and now you've got a broad spot that your thumb is engaging with, and you can do that slicing action, and it just works very, very well that way. And, you know, even if you're cutting wood, it's just going to go to town and just work very, very well for you. And if you're cutting through heavier duty stuff, let's say you're going to try to go through a piece of rope, you know, it's just going to slice right through it, and you're done cutting the rope. It's a good, strong knife, and it just works very, very well that way. And even after you've used it for a long time, and I sharpened this quite a long while ago, you know, it stays sharp for a long time. And this is, you know, again, like I said, after it's been, you know, I sharpened it maybe 3 months ago, and I use it occasionally. I carry it every once in a while. It just, 440C steel holds an edge fairly well for quite a good amount of time. And you just have to strop it every once in a while and then sharpen it on, you know, after I've had about 6 or 7 times that I've needed to strop it, then I go back and I sharpen it up, tune it up a little bit. You don't really need to sharpen blades as often as some people think. You know, they really do have a nice edge come back with just a little bit of good maintenance, such as stropping or honing an edge with a steel, the way chefs do. What do we have for sizes on all of this stuff? Let's talk about that. So we've got a cutting edge that's 8.89 centimeters. Yeah, centimeters. I wrote down millimeters. This is a little more than 8.89 millimeters. 8.89 millimeters. We've got a cutting edge of 8.89 centimeters. That's 3.5 inches. Blade length, and so I measured from the tip of the G10 here to the tip of the blade. It's actually a little bit less than the cutting edge, 8.62 centimeters, 3.39 inches. The blade thickness is 3.32 millimeters. That's 0.1305 inches. The blade depth is 2.73 centimeters. That's 1.08 inches. The thickness of the edge behind the grind is 0.68 millimeters. That's 0.0265 inches. So it's a little bit thicker than, well, certainly it's a little bit thicker than it was when it was brand new. And I sharpened it to about 20 degrees. And if I remember correctly, it was very close to 20 degrees from the factory. I didn't have to do too much cleanup work. It was a very good grind from the factory. The handle length is 11.96 centimeters, so almost 12 centimeters. And that was measured not counting this glass breaker on the end. So just to the end of this pocket clip to the tip of the handle, 11.96 centimeters, 4.7 inches. The grip area, and that's between my thumbnails right there, 9.5 centimeters, 3.74 inches. The handle thickness, not counting the pocket clip right here, is 1.5 centimeters. That's 0.591 inches. So almost 0.6 of an inch thick this way. And the handle depth, it's at its greatest point right there where the transition is after the first choil. 2.7 centimeters, 1.06 inches. And I forgot to do the translation into inches. The total length of this knife is 21.5 centimeters, and the inch length is written on the screen right here. So 21.5 centimeters, good length of a knife. How much does it weigh? It's 154 grams, which is 5.45 ounces. So just under 5.5 ounces for a full-size knife. It's a folder that's got a strong lock on it, a pocket clip that's tipped down, and you can do it right or left. It's a deep carry pocket clip. It's got a lanyard hole that's in the perfect spot, and it's a very good lanyard hole. Back spacer, so it's like a tube for the lanyard hole. That's good. I don't know why some people insist when they do reviews on saying that If it's an open pillar, then it's easy to clean this knife, and if it's got a backspacer, it's hard to clean the knife. I just don't get it. I find it super easy to clean a knife like this. You just take a cotton swab, and you can clean in there very easily. There's no challenge there. At least I don't find it challenging. I don't know about other guys. In fact, it's often more difficult to clean an open pillar construction because you've got to clean around each one of those pillars, whereas with this thing, it's just one wipe across the inside, and that's done, and then one wipe over the outside, and that's done. You don't have to do anything around. Oh, well, I won't belabor the point at all. And then you've got this glass breaker. The glass breaker has a little hole right there and a little hole right there. Regular pliers you can grab on there and use that to loosen it. This glass breaker behaves as the screw that holds the pocket clip in place. So that's how you adjust it. You unscrew the glass breaker if you wanted to change the pocket clip to the other side. And it changes back and forth quite easily. There's a nice tungsten tip on that glass breaker. I think you can even see it in this light if we can focus it again. So tungsten is a really hard material, and since it comes to a point, that works very, very well as a glass breaker. You can smash through glass much easier than you can if it was just a steel tip. Okay, we've done that. Let's talk about, the different grips and stuff. Very many grips on this knife, as long as you don't put your thumb over the top of the back. That point there can tend to get sore a little bit, especially if you used it while your hand was this way and you came to a sudden stop. I'm going to demonstrate. So if you're using this and it came to a sudden stop, then your hand is going to stop and all that pressure is going to transfer through your thumb into that spot, and that's going to get sore pretty quickly. So you've got to wrap your thumb around it or just rest it up over top of the thumb stud there. Not thumb stud, pocket clip. Rest it over the pocket clip, and that's better. For those of you who are familiar with my channel, you know that I interchange thumb stud and pocket clip quite regularly. So many different grips, a reverse, just a regular reverse grip, very comfortable. Pinch grips to do some fine work, quite comfortable. Hard work with your thumb up there, that's comfortable. You've got a little bit of a spot for your finger right there. You can see how that's designed, so you can do a little bit of work like this. It's not quite big enough for people with really large hands. You might slip off and get into the edge if you're not careful. I wish that sharpener's choil came forward just a little bit right to the end of that plunge line there and into the beginning of the grind. But it's not bad. It sharpens up quite well. It's a nice knife. I really, really like it. In fact, I prefer how aggressive the G10 is, the way it is from the factory. And if you did want to make this a little less aggressive, go outside and have the wind to your back, or preferably do both. Wear a decent dust mask, a good quality one, because G10 in dust form is really hard on your lungs. And just sort of sand it down really gently a little bit, and you're going to get it's going to be a little bit softer in your hand if you do that. They've done the corners a little bit on the edges, so it doesn't hurt to grip around very much. If you've got really soft hands, if you're used to just pushing paper all the time, then you might, after a while of gripping it, come out and find that you've got all kinds of little marks in your hand. And I'm a paper pusher, but my hands are fairly tough. And so I don't mind at all how aggressive that is. And you notice how we've got an angle this way right here for the front half, sort of as if this was a bolster. And then back here, it's on an angle that direction. And so it's really good for forward and reverse kind of action. It's not going to pull out of your hand going that way or push that way very easily. Nice guard for your finger. You've got just a little bit of a riser spot right there, and that acts as a little bit of a guard for your thumb if you don't want your thumb to go forward. And if you want it forward, it fits in there quite well. This is a great little knife. I'm really, really glad it's in stock again. If you don't have very many Ganzo knives, I would consider getting this one if you want a knife for doing hard work. I can't remember off the top of my head which knife this is a copy of. If you know which knife this is a copy of, let me know in the comment section below. And, you know, at just under 5.5 ounces and having a blade that's 3.5 inches, you know, this is a really good standard full-size folder that I really appreciate. The bead blasted blade, I should say, if you're somebody who lives next to the ocean, that might not be your best choice of a finish. It will begin to corrode a little bit more easier than a satin finish would. Where I live in central Alberta, no deal at all, no problem. This finish is not going to rust easily at all. So there you go. That's the knife. I really like it. It works really good. It looks really good. It cuts very well, and it's a good, comfortable knife to have. If you'd like to buy one of these, please consider using my links in the description below, just above the comments. And thank you very much to all my Patreon supporters. Thank you to everybody else who likes and shares and comments. You guys are the best. Remember, always cut towards your chum, not your thumb.